Morning and afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me? I know it's super hard to see. Okay, cool. I got a message so they can hear me. Welcome to Hiretuality Part 2. My name is Reese. I am your MC for the day. We have a great session today. We also have another session on the 27th, but today we will be going through basically our product overview. We'll be doing a demo and all that stuff. So I will gladly introduce what Hiretool is. So what we do at Hiretool is we take recruitment to the next level. We basically take software that transformed hiring technology of today and build it into what the future is. It helps you scale your organization with sourcing, analyzing, integration. I am the events and inclusion coordinator, so I'm not the mastermind behind all of Hiretool, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our sales team. Next, if my screen's gonna load because it doesn't like me today and Zoom is just not feeling it today. But pretty much this is the agenda for today. Like I said, my name is Reese Byrne. We have Elizabeth Tang, Amy Sherman, and Dan Katz. And so basically what we're gonna be getting into is our product overview, which is with Elizabeth. Dan will be doing our Hiretool demo, and then we'll be going to our customer training with Amy and her team. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let Elizabeth take over.
Hey, everybody. Can everybody see me?
Yes, and hear you.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second here. So hello, my name's Elizabeth and I'm the product marketer at Hiretual. Thank you all for joining us today. I know Tangi's over there hosting SourceCon, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Before we dive into our most recent updates on Talent Data Cloud, I want to go over just a quick recap from last Wednesday in case you missed it. We talked about Hiretual meetings on the top left. There's a screenshot right there. It's an interview scheduling feature that can be accessed by our current customers without any additional cost. We also talked about the organization admin role on the bottom right. So that's basically the admin of all admins, which can help you manage recruiting teams globally. So if you have any offices, all over the US or international, this might be the thing for you. You'll be able to manage all the different teams, see their performance reports, and have a good grasp on whether every team is meeting your hiring goals. Okay. All right, so if you missed these last week and would like to learn more, just reach out to a member of our team and I'm sure we could get you started. All right. Okay. So today, I'd love to share some exciting, updates on our Talent Data Cloud. We're a customer-centric company here at Hiretual, and we build our product to help elevate your recruiting experience, right? So before we dive into the updates, I want to give just a quick overview of what Hiretual is. I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with the product. So quick history lesson, 6 years ago, our co-founders, Steven and Xing Wen, set out to create a more predictable and scalable solution to recruit. Hiretual is the next level recruitment solution. And these are the four main pillars of our product. We've got AI sourcing, talent engagement, team collaboration, and then finally Talent Data Cloud. All right. So on the top left here, I have a screenshot of our main AI sourcing page. Our AI sourcing capabilities consist of over 35 different filters. So you've got diversity to choose from, security clearance, GitHub, Google Scholar, and it goes, into the little nitty gritty, I want how many citations for this person to have in their papers, right? If they publish something. But all of these filters are there for you to help you narrow down on all of the candidates that we offer. So we have 750 million plus candidates. That is a lot. So these filters are there to help you narrow down. If you're more traditional and would like Boolean, we also support that. So you can insert your string at the bottom. if you would like help building a Boolean string, we also have a Boolean builder that can assist with that too. Okay, so I believe what hasn't gotten much attention in the past is the sourcing configuration that's available for our admin user. I feel like this usually gets looked past. But here on the bottom right in that screenshot, you'll be able to build and take action on your hiring strategies. So if you want your team to hire more people of underrepresented groups, you can turn that on. Another feature I'd like to highlight is at the very bottom, you'll see something called company list exclude. So this feature it's the ability to attach a list of companies for your team so they can automatically exclude from their searches. So the use case here is that, if you have competitors that you don't want your recruiting team to source from, this can help, right? In addition to the company lists, we also offer list capabilities for schools and then also for locations under our main sourcing page. You kind of have a sneak peek over here, locations, and then it says add edit lists. I have one created for Disney locations, but if you are hiring for remote positions, but you want your candidates to be in a certain time zone, for example, this might be the way to go. Okay. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat or our Q&A, and I can also help answer at the end. All right. So for those familiar with Hiretual candidate engagement, you've seen our email templates, metrics, reminders, sending on behalf of, over the last couple of months, we released a feature where you can send on behalf of somebody, and then also the sender can see the replies as well, right? So you send on behalf, the recruiter, send on behalf of a hiring manager. Once the candidate responds, the recruiter will also be able to see all of that engagement happening. So everybody's on the same page. And then Hiretual has amazing customizable nurture campaigns, right? So this screenshot over here, it really only gives you a small sneak peek into how that all looks like. I believe Dan in a little bit will give a more full demo, but we recently released a poll feature. So you can see that in my email body, I have these 3 auto responses for my candidate. This gives my candidates an opportunity to, for faster responses. And then in return, this will also increase my reply rates. Okay. On top of that, we've got insights, we've got variables that you can insert. So really be able to customize these campaigns. Okay. So on the third pillar, earlier from my slide, we've invested a lot of resources into improving the collaboration amongst your hiring teams. And we know that it's not just the recruiter, right? When you want to hire one candidate, it's the recruiter at play. We've got hiring managers. Maybe we've got someone reviewing a portfolio. Everybody is chipping in to hire this one ideal candidate. So this is where this feature comes in, right? One of the many collaboration optimization features is this profile sharing and then feedback collection ability that Hiretual has. I feel like not many people know about this, and you're actually able to share candidate profiles with not just Hiretual users, but then also non-Hiretual users. So if you have hiring managers who don't have a Hiretual seat, don't worry, right? Like you can just send them the link, send them the email with the candidates, and then have them leave feedback. I hope this GIF is clear. So basically I click share, I click someone, on someone on the team, or then I can use the link at the bottom, include my little message. And then over here, the person receives that link and says, okay, she's a great addition to the team. Let me leave my feedback, right? And then everybody on the team can sync on the candidate again. So I know our team is continuously making iterations on this feature. So very, over the next week or two, you'll be able to collect feedback on not just one, but also a handful of candidates in a breeze. Okay. All right. This brings me to our final pillar, which is Talent Data Cloud. Talent Data Cloud, it consists of all of our ATS integrations. Once integrated with Hiretual, there are many benefits, right? We consolidate and enrich all of the candidate profiles in your ATS essentially with information found on the open web, right? So Hiretual has, we have information from 45 plus platforms. So we're here to really unify that data between your different platforms to give you a single source of truth. So we'll even deduplicate profiles and we'll empower you to use AI to sift through these past applicants and possibly re-engage them for your current open positions. Okay. On the right-hand side, you can see on my screen here, these are some of our ATS integrations. We have Workday, Taleo, Business and Enterprise. We have these standard integrations, and then we will also build out customized integrations for our clients when necessary. Okay, so I know I've kept you all waiting, so let's jump into the platform here. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Okay. All right, everybody can see my screen? Okay, so this screen here, I know it says Talent Data Cloud configurations, but the Hiretual, this is part of the Hiretual App Marketplace, and it's basically a one-stop shop for our recruiters and our admin users. This is as part of the admin console. We're showing all of the one-way and two-way integrations that we offer. It's a total of 34 ATSs and CRMs. In the marketplace, we recently pushed out new integrations. I know I talked about Hiretual meetings earlier where you can schedule your interviews. You'll have to just integrate your Google or Outlook calendars. So that's also part of the marketplace. Now, under Talent Data Cloud configurations, the admin can connect and configure deep two-way integrations, right? So these are two-way integrations, and they give you the benefit of only working with the most up-to-date profiles, right? You never have to worry about, an old stale profile that you're sifting through, and maybe this person has moved on to new experiences. I mean, with the fluidity of the market today, like you want your profiles to be up to date so that you can actually work efficiently, right? We'll help you find new emails, contact information, phone numbers, private work, new experiences, and then insights that the candidates might have. And then we'll attach them to the profiles, and then you can export them to your ATS when you want, right? So these integrations allow you to nurture those past applicants or just the candidates that you've interacted with in the past. Okay, it doesn't have to be like an actual engagement, maybe like a viewing or impression. All right, I'm gonna click into Greenhouse Harvest here. This is always the one that I show just because it has a lot of functionalities. The integrations, they're not all the same. They do differ, here and there with the functionalities. But Greenhouse Harvest here, as the admin, I'll be able to, I've shopped for a platform. I've seen the tutorials. I've decided that, okay, Greenhouse Harvest is the way to go. Maybe we already have it, so I just have to provide the credentials. But over here as the admin, I've got import and export settings that I can configure. You're probably wondering why I'm showing settings. This is really important, right? In terms of hiring strategies. In import settings, you can edit these rules that really allow you to target your imports. We can say, okay, how many candidates I want to import into Hiretual, And then over here, I can say that, okay, I want the candidates who have applied through Greenhouse in these select jobs or stages that I have, hiring stages, tags. And I know for some of our other ATS integrations, we also offer locations. So you can be like, okay, I have candidates, I have applicants who applied in the California region. So I'm going to pull them into Hiretual to enrich them with more information, right? Or to engage them. So this is import settings. Next, I have export settings. This is really cool, right? This is where you can customize where you want the information from Hiretual to be when they move over to Greenhouse or Workday, for example, right? So I can say that, okay, I'll have my team export these candidates from Hiretual to Greenhouse as a candidate on a job, or simply just as a prospect. You know, maybe you're not ready to put them into a specific rec, but we'll allow you to nurture them, right? At the bottom, this is just data mapping, and you'll see which information gets mapped to where in your ATS. You can also choose to attach your Hiretual resume when candidates are exported. So Hiretual resumes are holistic. They give you that 360-degree look of the candidates. So it is always nice to have that resume there in your ATS. Down over here, we have notes, tags, emails from Hiretual. So any of these that you leave within Hiretual will also be able to export into Greenhouse. For a lot of our two-way Talent Data Cloud integrations, we'll also be able to pull the ones in Greenhouse over to Hiretual. So it's seamless, right? It's one information that's consistent on both ends. All right. On the bottom here, this is just a quick domain customization if you want to do that for your org. All right. Again, if you have any questions, please leave it at the bottom. So next, I'm in the Talent Data Cloud page. This is where all of the magic happens, right? The Talent Data Cloud dashboard. So as the admin, once my ATS has been integrated, Hiretual analyzes your ATS candidates, these past applicants that maybe you've worked with in the past. Maybe, like I've said, they moved on to different jobs and you want new information on them. So eventually we'll capture all that information and then help you enrich those candidates. And then we'll also capture information on whether you've re-engaged with these applicants, right? So in this dashboard on the top, you'll see, okay, I have 65,000 total candidates imported into Hiretual. 55,000 of those have been refreshed by Hiretual. By that, I mean, we probably added new experiences, new emails, and that gives me a total of, an 84% refresh rate, right? That's awesome, right? At the bottom, I have insights of my ATS talent pool. This is really cool. Not all ATSs offer this. We have, right? How is my pool doing? How many candidates have I imported? On the right-hand side gives me a geographical view of these candidates. And at the bottom, I know there's been a lot of talk about diversity hiring, right? I want to be able to see a diversity breakdown. All of these different charts that I'm showing you here, they are interactive. So, just like all of our other insights charts, market insights in Hiretual, they're all interactive. You can click into them and then further narrow down on these candidates. Okay. All right. Let's go back to our main Hiretual page. Can everybody see my dashboard? Okay, I switched the tab over. All right. So this is the main Hiretual dashboard. It's where all of your main recruiting tasks are. We have your performance, your team performance, any reminders that you might have. You can dive into your recent projects. Mine looks just a little empty because I'm not actually actively recruiting someone right now. So over here, this main dashboard, I'm going to go into one of the existing projects that I have. over here for the sake of this demo, right? So I have product managers, designers, people on the team. All right, so I'm sourcing, this is my open project I'm trying to hire, right? So after I've it, and let's see. All right. All right, let's come back up. All right, let me share.
Oh, we lost you for a second. Elizabeth, you good?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, great. We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. All right, I think my internet's back up. Also, I am in the office, so all right, here we go. So I'm in the pipeline. I've got 8 candidates that I really liked when I was looking through the search results. And from here, so I know Dan is going to give a more comprehensive demo. So very quickly here, I can select the candidates. I can engage with them. So, I have my templates. I have my sequences that I can use. But what I want to show is the export, right? So I'm ready to export these candidates into my ATS. Maybe I've already sent out the sequences, they've responded, and now I want to move them over to my ATS for interview scheduling, etc. Right? So sync and export, and it brings me to this window. Over here, I have all of my connected ATSs. I have a lot. You might just have one, and that's okay, right? So Greenhouse Harvest, I want to import them there, sync to ATS, and I'll be able to select the application type that I want, right? So maybe for this one, I want to push them into a specific job. And it'll prompt me to select the job. So now it's capturing all of those jobs that I have. For the sake of this, I'm just gonna say machine learning, and then I can select which stage in my greenhouse that I want them to be pushed into. So let's say phone screen. Export candidates. And during this time, it's immediate, right? We immediately sync these candidates into your ATS. So if I go into Greenhouse or click the Greenhouse icon, the quick redirect link, I'll be able to see these profiles there and fully, with all of the experiences that we've pushed over as well. Now, just last week, we released a feature called Auto Sync to help you automate this export flow, right? So let me show you how that looks like. Right. So I'm going to go into my main projects tab. These are all of the projects that I'm working on right now, right? Over here, you'll see a new column called Auto Sync. This is where we can automate this export for you, this export workflow, right? You don't have to manually click, select candidates, sync to ATS every single time you want to export. So over here, you'll see that some of them have been set up. For this one, right, biomedical engineer in Atlanta, it says contacted, right? So this means that when they hit the Hiretual contacted hiring stage, they'll be automatically exported over to one of my selected ATSs. Okay, so over here, let's give this a try. I did not set this one up. Click this button. As the admin, I can also do this for my team. But right now, right here, this is from a recruiter perspective. So this window pops up. It says auto sync settings. Select the project stage to auto push candidates from Hiretual using auto sync. We have links to the help center, but over here, you'll see that, okay, this is the Hiretual project that I'm working with right now. And this is the stage in Hiretual at which I want the candidates to be automatically exported, right? So for the specific project, these are the stages that I have. So say after the candidates have replied to my campaign, right? So at any point in which they respond to maybe one of my sequence emails, right? So then once they replied, I'll be able to automatically export them to one of my ATSs, right? Just gonna select Greenhouse and sync. Here we go. We're gonna do not on a job for now. And that's how it looks like over here. So now let's say replied. So meaning this is the stage in which it'll auto export to Greenhouse, all right? Okay, now, just to summarize, Hiretual ATS integrations are seamless, and we continue to update all of them with greater automation, precision, and then functions that can really encourage a more targeted and personal candidate engagement. Something else that I like to show is, I'm going to go back to my homepage here and go into my all candidates talent pool. All right. So currently in our product, we offer a complete view into all of the candidates in your pipeline. So filters on the top. So you can see I have 2 million, over 2 million candidates right now combined, right? So on the filters over here, they'll allow you to sift through all of these candidates by a specific Hiretual project, location, diversity, or when they've been last contacted by your team. So if you don't want overlap in your engagement, this is a nice filter to have. Now you can also filter by the source of where these candidates are coming from. So I can go ahead and select ATS, and it'll give me these filters: ATS job, ATS stage, and I can filter these candidates from here as well, right? After I filter these candidates, that's an opportunity for me to re-engage. So let's say 2 years ago in my greenhouse, I had a couple recs open for software engineers, right? And I remember which ones they are. And now 2 years later, I want to re-engage those candidates for maybe a higher level SDE position. Okay. All right. Stop sharing my screen here and go back to my slide. All right. Actually, I see that a lot of them have been answered already.
Yeah, it seems like Amit is doing a good job of answering some of them. Can you briefly go over how does it work? How does Talent Data Cloud work with pricing when you refresh a contact?
So for every, we don't charge for contact information unless you click reveal, right? So there's a reveal button, or unless you add them into a nurture campaign, and in that case, then we'll have to reveal the email, right? So in those cases, we'll consume those contact credits. When you export the candidates from Hiretual over to your ATS, export credits will be consumed, but we won't double consume for contact, right? So we'll see that, okay, these have been consumed already, so we'll leave them be. But yeah, that's the gist of how that works.
Excellent. And just last second, if anyone has any last minute questions for Elizabeth, please feel free to use our chat. And up next, we'll be going further into a demo of the product. Dan Katz has joined us, and he's going to be walking through, the front end of it. And this is a good time, by the way, just to put Dan on the spot. And Dan, just turn your camera on when you're ready. This is a good time, to really make him work. So if you have an open position, also feel free to use the chat, and he's happy to walk through how you can find candidates for that position If not, it is Dan's choice. So until I see something come through in the chat, Dan, why don't you introduce yourself and go ahead and feel free to begin when you're ready.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Very appreciative. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time today. Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Dan Katz. I'm one of the enterprise account executives here at Hiretual. So I will be taking you through a demonstration today. I'm sure you've learned a lot already about Hiretual and our product and what it can do for your organization, how it fits within your workflow. Today, what we're going to be doing is focusing on how to source for candidates in our product. We're going to show you then how to engage with them as well. And then if we have some time, we can show you a lot of other cool functionalities that we offer that kind of supplement that workflow, where we can actually look at the messages, we can look at metrics so that we can understand our open rates, our reply rates, our all types of things. So we'll be taking a look at that. And then we also have some really awesome functionality around talent reports within our insights functionality. So if you're interested in understanding maybe an average market value or average salary for a particular hire, you can do that. If you're interested in certain diversity pools, we can show you that information as well. So a lot of great content coming. So it looks like nurses are in demand today. Awesome. Okay. So then what we're going to be doing is looking for some RNs in our platform. We work with a lot of hospitals and healthcare organizations. We're looking at Washington or Montana. So we can certainly put this stuff down here. I'll just take a quick note of it so I can look back at it. But why don't we get started? I know that there's a lot of folks on the call today, and I'm sure a lot of you have some interest in certain positions that you're looking to source for. I will be very frank with you that we're not going to have all the time in the world to go through every single one. However, if you are interested in doing a personalized demonstration with myself or anyone else on my team, feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to spend the time going through that to show you what we can find. Okay. So why don't we get kick-started here? I'm going to share my screen, and I apologize to everyone. You're going to start to see the side of my face. We'll be using a bigger screen on my end. But what you should be seeing at this point is the Hiretual dashboard. And I just want to give you a quick lay of the land as to what we're looking at, and then we can jump right into our sourcing activities here. So the first thing that you're going to see on the very top of your screen is this blue bar, and your blue bar is going to be your navigation bar. This is going to allow you to access your dashboard, which we're currently looking at now. You also are going to have your projects, and projects are going to be related to all the open positions that you're trying to fill. So those could be for RNs, those could be for software engineers, it could be for sales folks, or maybe customer success. Any open position that you have and you're looking for candidates to fill for it, you're going to create a new project within Hiretual. And you have no limitation as to how many projects you can create. And sometimes you can even create maybe variations of the same project depending on the type of candidates that you're looking for. We also have our messages portal. This is going to give you the ability to utilize an inbox and outbox, very similar to how you would use your normal email. We do have the ability to also integrate with your email. So the workflow is very continuous. All the data pushes back and forth so that you have full sight as to the replies that you're getting from candidates. And within the messages portal, you will also be able to build some templates for your outreach. That way, you don't have to recreate your message every single time you're reaching out to a candidate. We'll probably go into insights as well today. That's going to give you those talent reports so that you can understand your market a little bit better based upon the data that we have in Hiretual. And then we can also potentially get into the reporting module today as well. That way you can look at your team performance, you can look at pipeline performance, project performance. We are a very data heavy company. We're data first. That's what drives our decisions. And I'm sure that's going to help drive many of your decisions. So we will be able to provide you with all the information that you guys will need so that you can dig into it and understand the performance of your team and the product itself. So with that said, why don't we go over the dashboard real quickly here? I'm sure you've already taken a look at it while I've been rambling away. But the first thing that you're going to see right in the center of your screen is your weekly productivity. This, of course, is going to change week to week. It is also going to change from user to user. Currently, we're looking at some of my weekly productivity, which hopefully, if you're using Hiretual, it's going to look a little bit better than what I'm doing here. However, what's really interesting is that if you wanted to see other teammates' activity, you could also do that. You can find that in the reporting module. You could also do it right on the screen. You'll notice on the right side here where it says activities, We're currently looking at my activities and my projects. If you're interested in looking at other teammates and what they're working on in the system, you have exposure to that. So there's a lot of accountability, but we give you the audit trail behind it. Up on the top right, we have some reminders. Perhaps if you're setting something up for yourself to reach out to somebody when they ask you to, you can certainly do that. In the center of our screen here, if I just jump back over, we also have our recent projects, just a nice way to jump back into those projects that you've been working on actively. You can also see them very far on the left side of your screen as well. If we scroll down, we can see some of the messages that we're receiving from candidates. We can take a look at our search history that we've created, as well as any insight history. So a lot of great stuff at your fingertips. Again, the idea of your dashboard is just a quick way to jump back into some of the work that you were working on maybe the day before and reduce some of the clicks it takes to get the work done. All right, so at this point, what we're going to do is start this project. We're going to come up to the top left here and we're going to click on source candidates. There's actually a lot of different ways that you could start a project. You could just start and source your candidates. I do have a lot of customers that will also start with the insights reports, understand their market and the talent pools, and then create a project from there after that understanding. For today, just to save a little bit of time, we're going to start with a sourcing project. And you'll notice the pop-up on my screen. And the easiest way to think about this pop-up is kind of like a book. So you'll notice there's kind of a seam going down the center of our screen here. And on the right side is going to be where you have access to some of the sample candidates. And you'll notice that we're pulling candidates from over 45 different platforms on the open web. For instance, LinkedIn or GitHub, it could be AngelList, it could be ZocDoc, it could be HealthGrades, NPPS. So it really depends on the type of person that you're looking for, but we're going to be pulling information from a lot of different sources, as well as working with our data vendors to provide additional information. But we're going to give you access to over 750 million profiles on the open web, which is awesome. That's going to really help you guys build these pipelines, find the right candidates, and be able to reach out to them very, very quickly. So the system is going to show us some sample candidates because we're not expecting you to go through thousands of resumes to understand whether or not they're a qualified candidate. We're going to be utilizing Hiretools machine learning as well as the AI to kind of assist in this part of the project. And then we're going to teach the system kind of what candidates we like and which candidates we don't like, with some thumbs ups and with some thumbs down. If you're familiar with using Pandora, or if you're familiar with using Spotify for listening to music, you can kind of help the system understand what type of music you like. This is the same exact functionality. So again, this is where your sample candidates will show up. On the left side of your screen is going to be where you build all of your filter criteria. Now, there's a couple of approaches that you can take here depending on your needs. You'll notice that we have the ability to just come in here and we can start adding job titles, locations, mandatory skills, preferred skills, and we'll go through that for sure. But I do want to mention that you have two other options. If you wanted to start with a Boolean string, you could. We also have a Boolean builder within our platform that can help you build those strings out. You can also use here where you copy and paste a job description straight from your website, from your ATS. The system will actually read that information for you and build the filters based on what it can find. So that'll save you a lot of time, give you a jump start in the filtering process. But for today's purposes and for you guys to understand how the tool works and what's offered, I'd like to kind of take this from a manual approach here. And what we're going to do is start on the general tab on the top left. You'll notice there's a lot of other tabs that we're going to be touching upon as well today. Maybe not all of them, but certainly the more important ones. So we're going to start off with the general tab here, and we're going to start with the job title. So you have some options. You could look for candidates that have current or past job titles as an RN, or perhaps they are current. I'm going to start with current today just so we can see what kind of candidates are showing up. And if I simply just come in here where the text box is and I just start typing RN, the system's going to provide us with that drop down to select it. Now, you'll notice that we're also seeing a lot of other recommended job titles because the system realizes, because we're looking for an RN, that maybe we're looking for an LPN, maybe we're looking for a staff registered nurse. So you have the ability to put in other titles that are very similar to an RN so that you can build a bigger talent pool of qualified candidates. You do also have the ability, if needed, to exclude certain titles from your job search. Now, the next thing is going to be location. So I know that we had a couple locations thrown out there in the chat box. So we're going to go with Montana. And right now, Montana as a state, we can define this if you wanted to as well. But let's start at the state level and see what we can find. So at a state level for registered nurses, and we can add a couple others in here, but it's probably not going to change too much from our candidate pool. You'll see that on the top right, there's approximately 3,900 folks or so in this particular pool. As I come back over to the filter criteria here, outside of location, or one other thing I do want to mention about location is that we have some shortcuts for you. If perhaps for some reason, I know not all the folks on the phone are looking for RNs, maybe you're looking to hire a remote position, but it needs to be in a northeastern state or it needs to be in a certain time zone. You have the ability to build pre-built lists of states. So you can see I have northeastern states, southeastern states. You could have certain zip codes if you want to for certain states. There's a lot of options here as far as what you can choose from. And you can also set your radiuses. So it could be 15 miles, it could be 100 miles. It's really up to you. And right now, of course, since we're looking at Montana as a state, it's just going to default showing everything within that state, of course. Now, the next thing is going to be your mandatory skill sets. Based upon the registered nurse position, the system is making some recommendations for us here. So perhaps they need to be in healthcare, perhaps they need to understand acute care, or maybe they have to specialize in home care. You can start clicking on these different skill sets and starting to dwindle down your talent pool. Now, of course, some of these skill sets that I'm choosing may not fit your particular job recs, and that's okay. I just want to use this as part of our demonstration so you understand how the system works. I also want to mention that we have something called smart mode. So what's nice about this is as you start to enter mandatory skills in, with smart mode turned on, what it's going to do is relax the algorithm a little bit. So if for some reason we had 5 or 6 mandatory skills in here and we found a candidate that had 4 out of the 6, that candidate is still going to show up in your talent pool, but what the system's going to do is actually stack rank them for you. So you're going to see the people at the very top of your list that have all 6 mandatory skills, and then it'll continue to drop down from there. You can also add in preferred skills if you're interested. This generally is not going to change your candidate pool, but it is going to change the stack rank of the candidates. So if there was a preferred skill that one of these candidates had, they would continue to push up into the list. The last thing that we have here on the bottom for the general tab is going to be related to your years of experience. So with years of experience, this is talking about overall years of experience. So perhaps maybe this registered nurse was a bartender for 5 years and is a registered nurse now for the last 10. They have 15 years of experience. So be careful when you're utilizing this particular search function. It certainly can be helpful depending on your needs. However, I like to use the experience tab in order to define what kind of people I'm looking for. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Now, before we get to experience, I do want to jump into company. Now, company is going to be helpful in many ways. You can search for particular candidates that are working at certain companies or past companies. You can see that here. So for instance, just by way of example, maybe you're looking for all registered nurses that are working at Kindred at Home. I'm coming up with a healthcare organization that's very large that I'm sure most people would recognize the name. You could put them in as a competitor, and maybe you're looking to source from them. So you could create competitor lists if you wanted to that you source from regularly, or perhaps there's certain tech companies, depending on the role that you're always sourcing from. So if maybe it was a software engineering role, you're sourcing from Apple, from Google, from Uber, from Lyft, whatever it might be, you can build those pre-built lists to save yourself time, very similar to as I was explaining with the location filter. You also have the ability to exclude from certain companies. By default, we always exclude your own company, so you're not sourcing from your own candidate pool or your own employee pool, if you will. You can also define the industries that you're interested in sourcing from. You have a whole list here, and all you would have to do is start typing to find the information that you need. And you can also, of course, exclude certain companies, and you can also choose company size or company type down here on the bottom. Now, the next thing is going to be your experience tab, which I had mentioned previously when we were on the general tab. There's a couple options here that you can use. The first one's going to be years in current company. This is very helpful for folks that are looking to avoid job hoppers. So if you're looking for someone that's been in their position for at least 1 to 2 years, you can certainly, or 1 to 2 years within their current company, you can make those selections here. If you're interested in current role, this is where you're going to get a better understanding of how long they've been a registered nurse. So if you're interested in seeing people that are 4 to 6 years only, you can click that and you'll notice that we're dropping down to only 37 candidates in this particular position. Obviously, most of us probably know on the call, regardless if you're in the healthcare industry or not, it's been very hard to find registered nurses. So maybe you don't want to limit yourself to the experience in the current role, and we can just literally keep it open and reach out to these particular candidates. The other thing that we also have is seniority levels. If you'd like to choose that, you can, but seniority could also be based on the years in current role as well. So, by way of example, if you were looking at a software engineer, just from an IT perspective, but you wanted somebody that was a senior software engineer, maybe instead of putting senior position here, which you could also utilize maybe like a 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 years in the current role, and actually pull those folks in. So it depends on how you want to use the filters. I always recommend to my customers when you're doing these searches to play around with the filters a little bit and look at the results that you're actually getting from the system to kind of define how you want to move forward with those filters that you've chosen. So that'll be your experience tab. We also have education, so you can add in bachelor's in here, master's degree, PhDs, whatever you're interested in. Again, this is all information that we're going to be finding on these candidates' profiles. You can add in majors if you wanted to, specific schools that you're looking to source from, or perhaps even years of graduation. All of this information is available. And again, as you add in more filters, your candidate pools are going to continue to shrink and shrink. If you're interested in languages, perhaps this person needs to be bilingual. If they need to know Spanish, maybe they need to know French, you can just come down to this drop down. You can simply click on that. So very easy to do. Again, it'll just change your candidate pool and show you those candidates that actually are showing that they speak Spanish. Next is going to be diversity. So within Hiretual, we have the ability to help your organization with diversity hiring goals and hiring from those underrepresented groups. And you can see some of the selections that we have on the screen here. So if for some reason you were interested in only hiring registered nurses that were Black or African American, you can simply make that selection here. A lot of the information that you're finding is based upon an inference. So what we're doing is we're going to be looking at the candidate's profile to understand whether or not they're a woman, maybe whether or not they're Black or African American or Asian. So for instance, maybe this person went to an all women's college, or perhaps there's certain pronouns in their profile that we're picking up on. That's going to kind of drive us to put them in different subgroups, if you will. So that's how that is going to work here in the system. And we can also help you with this, by the way, in the insights reports. We can dive in. So if you're interested in seeing an insights report for diversity around all of the underrepresented groups, we can show you that type of information as well. The other thing I want to show here, just because there's some power filters that we offer within our solution. I know that the focus right now was on the RN, but I do want to talk about our tech filter for those on the phone that are interested in hiring IT and tech positions. We do have a specific tech filter here where you can decide on looking at profiles that have uploaded information and their projects into GitHub, Stack Overflow, or Kaggle if you're interested. You can also then define their expertise, any coding activities. You can find that there as well. I'm actually not going to be utilizing this filter today since we are using the registered nurse as the example for our demonstration. Now, if we go to the healthcare filter, that is certainly relevant for today's webinar. And what you'll see here is that we have the ability to find candidates that are exclusively found on Healthgrade, ZocDoc, RateMDs, or NPPS, as well as state medical boards. If you wanted to, we can check that box off. Again, by doing this, you're going to notice our candidate pool shrinking a little bit more. So now there's only 311 candidates in our pool, which is certainly more manageable, right? I think it's a little hard for a recruiter or source to go out and reach out to 400 people at a time. But that is something that's certainly possible that you can do within our platform. Now, you'll see here when we check this box off, if you're interested in certain specialties, you can add that in here. Some of these specialties are going to be similar to some of the mandatory skills that we found on the general tab. So again, You can utilize the product and how you see fit depending on the results that you're getting. Every organization will be a little bit different. You can put state licenses in. You can also put certain certifications in here as well. But you could also put CPR on the general tab as a mandatory skill and find your candidates that way. So again, different ways of using the system to find similar results. But if you're interested in just finding candidates that were targeted from these particular sites, we can certainly do that. All right. So basically at this point, we found a lot of RNs, and I think a lot of them are going to be great fits for us. And you'll notice that on the right side of our screen, we have a summary, or not a summary, but basically a sample candidate pool of RNs that we're going to be reaching out to. So it's not going to be 311, but we're going to show you approximately 5. And you'll notice on the bottom here, we have a calibration wheel. So this is where we're going to be teaching the system what kind of candidates that we're actually looking for. So you can just quickly go through this, and we can look at Kristen's profile here. Looks like she's an acute care nurse, and if acute care was actually one of the skill sets that we were looking for. And you'll notice that the system is highlighting those skill sets in yellow so that it brings it to your forefront so that you can really see it very quickly. If you're interested in understanding more about Kristen's profile, you can click on these little hyperlinks that say more. It'll actually break down work history. It's also going to break down education, and it will also break down a lot of different tags that we're building based upon their resume and based upon the information that they're sharing there. Now, you're going to probably ask me, well, Dan, how do I actually look at their full profile? This doesn't give me all the information. So that's actually going to be on the next screen. So every person that you put into your pipeline, you're ultimately going to be able to click on their name. It's going to be a blue hyperlink, and you'll be able to look at their profile a little bit more depth. You'll also be able to understand, for instance, what platforms we're getting their information from. I know that's a common question that's asked from us. So we'll be able to show you all those different social links. But ultimately, as I explained before, very similar to like Pandora or Spotify, we're going to be giving these candidates a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So we'll say Kristen's a good fit, and you'll notice that she's being added to our pipeline on the next stage. We'll talk about that in just a minute. We can also look at Randy here. Randy, probably a good fit, so let's click on that. Bonnie's a good fit. Christy, probably a good fit, although, yeah, she's still a registered nurse currently, so why don't we say a good fit? We wouldn't want to rule her out. But just randomly, if you felt like maybe Brittany was not a good fit, what we can do is say not a good fit, or through this drop down, we can give a reason so we have an audit trail. And you'll also notice that we have another option here called Other, and Other will allow you to put your own reasons as to why she's not a good fit. So there's a lot of clarity around this when you're working with your teams. But for right now, let's not say she's a bad fit. I think Brittany probably is a good fit based upon her background. So we're going to add her to our pipeline. So at this point, we are fully ready to go. And what we're going to do is click on See Results. And now what the screen is going to do is it's going to ask us to either create a project, which is what we're going to do, or it's going to ask you to save these candidates to an existing project. So if you already have an RN project that you're working on, maybe you're putting in new filter criteria, but you still want to add them to that RN project, you certainly could do that. But for today, what we're going to do is I'm going to create a new one here. We'll call it RN and Montana. And the next thing that the system is going to ask you for is, what does your pipeline stages look like? How are you going to manage this candidate from basically a good fit stage like we are right now, all the way to the hired process? You'll notice here that the first one that's popping up on my screen happens to be a technical content writer. But if I click on the drop down, we can go through all the different options, and we have ones that we will provide to you as default out of our system. However, you will also have the ability to build your own template. So there's a lot of freedom here. But let me just click on one of these, maybe like a default recruiting process. You'll notice on the bottom that it's changed now. So we're managing good fit, contacted, replied, phone screen, all the way to hire and making an offer. A lot of this is also automated. So for instance, when you say that they're a good fit and then you actually engage with them and send an email, they're going to automatically move to the next stage within your pipeline. All right, so we'll save you some time there and some of the heavy lifting. And then of course, we also have some automations where we could push these candidates to your ATS if you're interested. I think that's going to be a separate phone call for anybody that's interested, but we'd be more than happy to dive into that in more detail. So I'm going to click on Save and Start Sourcing at this point. And now what you'll notice on the top of our screen on that blue bar that I was going over when we first started off this conversation, we are now in the Projects tab. And within the Projects tab, there's going to be some sub tabs that we can look into. The first thing is it's going to show you the search results. So this is the search criteria that we use. You'll notice that there's our pipeline. Those 5 candidates that we said were a good fit on the previous page are now part of this project officially. And now what we'll do is have the ability to go through 306 other candidates that fit our criteria. Now, we are not expecting you to have to go through all 306 candidates. If you're interested in just highlighting all of them, you can just, basically click on this checkbox and it's going to take those candidates and move them into your pipeline. However, if you were interested in really diving into some of these in more detail, again, you can click on that blue hyperlink to get the information. So let's click on Susan's profile real quick so I can show you what this looks like in Hiretual. So you'll notice right on the screen here, right on the top, just some basic information about Susan, where she lives, how many years of experience does she have, what is her current position. And then the next thing is it's going to show you some contact information. And we have almost a 90% contact finding rate, which is certainly above average in the industry. And these are going to generally be personal email addresses that we're going to be reaching out to. And then we also have phone numbers. So I know Elizabeth was talking about revealing contact information earlier. If we were just to click on these, it's simply going to show that right here on the screen for you. Although you don't necessarily have to. If you thought Susan was a good fit, you can click on good fit, and then you can actually put her into your campaign automatically, and then it would use that, that contact credit for you. You'll also notice here on the far right side of your screen, or not too far on your right side of the screen, you're also going to see the different platforms that we're pulling Susan's information from. So this happens to be a combination of LinkedIn, Google, and Bing. But I've seen other profiles where there's 6 or 7 different social media sites that we're pulling information from. But the idea about our platform is that we're giving you a single source of truth for all the information on these candidates, rather than having you waste time and go to different platforms to find information on this particular person. You're going to have a holistic view right in Hiretual. So within Susan's profile, and it would basically every profile within Hiretual is going to have a very similar look and feel. You're going to have multiple tabs that you can store information on Susan. The first thing is it's going to show you the details on Susan as far as her experience. It's going to show you education, any projects that maybe she's uploaded on the internet, perhaps you'll be able to see that. And then you'll also be able to see her skill sets down here on the bottom. Very cool stuff, very helpful to see at the, right when you get into the system, you're going to be able to see that information. You'll also be able to see projects that Susan is tied to. So this is going to be one of 2 things. This could either be projects that Susan is tied to through the current ATS that you have an integration with, or perhaps it's projects that Susan is already tied to within Hiretual. So you have that visibility right on the screen, or you could simply add her to a project right here if you wanted to as well. We also have a notes section, very self-explanatory, but you can, basically put personal notes for yourself on each of these candidates. And just to be clear, every customer that we work with has a separate instance of Hiretual. So if company A was looking at Susan as a registered nurse and company B was looking at Susan as a registered nurse, there's no sharing of information as far as notes go or anything of that nature. Now, one other cool feature that we have with the notes, and this is just one area that I can explain this, is collaboration features, right? You're going to want to be able to talk to your team very easily, and using offline methods is not necessarily the fastest way to get the job done. So we like to do the communication within our platform. So if I was to click add here, I could simply use an @ symbol and I can say, at Matthew, this person looks great, right? So obviously you could write whatever you'd like here. There's some privacy settings around who's going to be seeing this note as well. And basically from here, what's going to happen is Matthew is going to get a notification in his email. He's also going to get a notification when he logs into Hiretual about this particular note. So we make a lot of noise, but we want to make sure the visibility is there for your team and that everybody is working effectively. So we're going to click add here. Matthew's actually going to get that note. But I annoy him quite frequently with this, but that this is a great way to collaborate with your team. You could also add tags to people if you wanted to, which would be very helpful in kind of putting them in different buckets if you're interested. If you wanted to upload files, you can set up reminders. And then we also have an activity log so that you can understand what's going on with these candidates at any given point, whether it's you working on it, or perhaps maybe some other colleague of yours is working on this and looking at Susan and engaging with them. Now on the far right side of our screen, we also have some insight information. So for instance, here for the healthcare, is showing some of Susan's specialties. We can see certificates that Susan has. And then we also have an insights report. And the insights report is going to show you things, for instance, like availability. And right now, Susan's availability is low, and most likely that's due to her job history and how long she stays at each organization. That's kind of the inference that we make. So if somebody stays at a position for, say, 2 to 3 years at a time, when that timing comes up, that's when we can kind of tell whether or not they're ready to jump ship or be more interested in actually having an interview. The other thing that we have here is average market value. So this is going to be the salary. We can show it in USD. We can show it in other currencies as well. We'll manage those FX rates for you and do all the conversions, but this will give you some insight there. And the average market value is being pulled from a lot of different sources, whether it's the US Census, it could be from Indeed, it could be from some of our data providers, it could also be from Glassdoor, but that's not generally one that we use as often since it's not as accurate. But this is some really great information. So from here at this point, I'm just going to say Susan is a good fit. And what we're going to do is move on to the next part of our demonstration here, which is going to be engaging with these candidates. So I'm going to click on our pipeline, which is the next sub tab. And you'll notice right on the top of our screen, we have all the stages within our pipeline that we defined right before we saved this project, right? And you'll see all the candidate information here on our screen. There's a lot of different activities that you can do within our platform right from this screen. If I was to click this checkbox here, you could mass tag, you can mass add notes if you wanted to. You could simply export these candidates right from our system as well. You can export them in PDF, you could export them in CSV, or maybe you want to push them to your ATS, you could do that as well. But what we're going to do today is we're going to contact them, right? So we want them to get into that interview process. So we're going to click on engage here. And you'll notice that we have an email pop up. And I'm going to show this now a little bit easier, a little blown up on our screen so it's a little easier to see. You'll notice right here on the top, just to be transparent, there was one candidate that was removed from our campaign because we could not find an email address. And that goes back to my my statement that we have about a 90% contact finding rate. So there will once in a while be a contact or candidates that you find that will not have an email address tied to their name. However, they may have a phone number. And we also do have some other functionality where the system can make some guesses as to what their email is going to be. That's some functionality that we can look at for another day. Now, the next step is going to be the from line. So this email is going to be sent from me today. However, we also have the ability to do send on behalf of. So perhaps maybe you're looking to send on behalf of a hiring manager, which is a total possibility. And we generally see higher response rates from that. So I would almost encourage you to consider using our send on behalf of functionality. For today, we're just going to be sending it for myself. The next line is the to line. Who's going to be getting these emails? We're going to lump them all into the same to line. However, each candidate is going to get a separate email from us, right? So it's not going to be all in the same thread. And if you ever had questions around certain functionalities like that, because that question does come up frequently, you'll notice throughout the system that we do sprinkle in these little question marks. And if you hover over there, we'll give you some helpful tips. Okay. Next thing is going to be your subject line. You could literally type anything that you want in there. I'm just writing some random text. Obviously not going to be a good job and probably getting some response rates and open rates, but you also have the ability when you come down here to the bottom to start typing in the body of the email. Now, it's also asking you, do you want to save this as a template for future use? If you did a better job than I did, then you probably would click on save. However, in this case, we're going to click dismiss. But what I do want to show you is that you have the ability to pull these templates in right into your emails. The messages portal, which we'll get to in just a minute there, is where you're going to be building these templates. You could also, again, build them here if you wanted to, but I would encourage you to build them first. That way you do the legwork up front, and then when you're ready to actually reach out these candidates, you can just literally click send. But I'm going to click on template here. I'm going to scroll through. There's a lot of default ones that I have set up, some custom ones that our team has made over time. Probably not going to find one necessarily for a registered nurse that quickly. So let's just click on an enterprise AE role for now. You'll notice that it's pulling the subject line in. It's pulling all the text in that we've created on the back end. You'll also notice here that we have some variable fields or dynamic fields. And that idea is that we're taking some of the manual effort in building these out. So when you're reaching out to 200 people at a time, for instance, which you certainly can do, they're going to pull all those first names in for you. If I click on variables, you could add other ones in. Maybe it's full name, it could be last name, or perhaps it's the candidate's current company, or maybe the location that they're in. You can use these to kind of personalize your messages a little bit more. And you'll also be able to put hyperlinks into your pictures. It's all rich HTML, so there's really no limitations as to how you kind of build your campaigns. Now, obviously, I think everyone on the call would agree with me here. You're never really going to get a great response rate by just sending one email address. So what I would encourage you to do is come to the bottom where it says use sequence and click on this plus sign. And again, just in the messages portal, like I explained earlier, you'll have the ability to build templates around your sequences, and sequences are going to allow you to do all the automated follow-up. And we can go up to 10 automations. So you basically will click send, and you're going to sit back and relax until that particular person replies to you. Once a candidate replies to you, they will automatically be pulled from that sequence. Let's pick one here at random. I think I actually have one set up here as well. So here's Dan's outreach sequence. You can also see before I click switch, these sequences are also showing you some metrics. You know, how many, what kind of performance is it? Is it 100% open rate? How many people are clicking on it? What's the reply rate? So this will also help you with some A/B testing so that you can understand whether or not one campaign is doing better than another. Maybe it's the same candidate pool or very similar candidates. Maybe the subject line is just different in your messaging, but you want to kind of test that out. You'll have the ability to utilize that in our platform. So I'm going to click switch. I'm going to show you how this looks in our system now. So you'll notice that some new text is coming into our emails. As I scroll down, I believe this one has 6 follow-ups. You'll also notice that there's a line here for scheduling. So you can also schedule when you're going to be sending these emails. And because we're looking at RNs here as an example, maybe 2:15 in the afternoon isn't the best time, or perhaps it is. It really depends on the candidate that you're reaching out to. Sometimes we see that maybe sending at 8 p.m. at night is going to yield a higher response rate, or perhaps in the evenings on the weekend is even higher response rate. And that's because they're looking at their personal email addresses, and that is what we're generally utilizing in order to reach out to them. Now, that's just kind of a helpful tip, right? And our system also provides you with more helpful tips than what I'm just providing here. So if you click on insights, this is insights for your engagement. And you'll notice here on the right side of our screen, for instance, send on behalf of, which we're not doing at the moment, it's going to increase our response rate anywhere between 50 and 90% based upon the statistics that we have across our customer base. Perhaps if you're sending your emails after 3 p.m., it increases it by 10 to 20. So these are things to think about. This is why we also can utilize this for that A/B testing that I keep bringing up, because the idea here is we need to engage with these candidates, because if you don't, they're not going to be in your interview process and you're not going to be able to hire them. So this is very, very crucial to your success as a sourcer or a recruiter. All right. So we're going to exit out of here. I'm not actually going to send an email, because if I do, they're all going to get an email from me, which I don't think is going to be appropriate for today. But if I did contact them, as I mentioned before, we have automations here where it'll automatically put them into the contact stage. If they reply to us, they're going to end up in the replied stage. All right. Now we're going to shift some gears here. We're going to move over to the messages portal real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. Pretty straightforward, but as I explained before, you'll have an inbox so that you can see all of your responses from candidates. You'll also have your outbox. We also have the ability to integrate with your email. So for Outlook, for Gmail, for any other client email that you might be using, or email client that you're using, we'll be able to push and pull the information very easily. If you look at your outbox as an example here, you're also going to be able to see some of those performance metrics showing up. So we'll let that load. And you'll notice, for instance, Dan's outreach sequence. We looked at this before, right? We saw it when we were selecting it. But in here within the messages portal, you'll see that 9 emails were delivered, 100% of the people opened it. Only 1 person clicked on a hyperlink that I had embedded in there, but we did have a pretty high response rate of 78%, which is great to see. You can look at this at a campaign by campaign level. If you're interested in looking at specific recipients that you're emailing, you could do that too. You have that report right here on your screen, and you can see, who's opened, who's clicked, who's replied. All right, and you can also filter on all of this. There's abilities to break this information down, to export it. Everything is going to be available to you and to your team. And you'll also notice here within the messages portal that we have sequences and templates. So this is where you're going to be building those out, as I mentioned before, so that you can utilize them on the engagement side of the house that we were just exploring together. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is head over to Insights. I know I've talked about this a little bit more. I'm going to move away from the registered nurse example, just so that perhaps anybody else on the team that is not interested in the healthcare space can see how this works. And what we're going to do is a quick search for a software engineer. I'm going to put that in here. Obviously, software engineers can be very difficult to find. They kind of hide in the weeds, and sometimes their profiles are not easy to access online and actually even reach out to. So what we want to do is kind of get a better understanding of this market. So I'm going to put software engineer here as a current or past title, and just for a location, I'm just going to put New Jersey in, since that's where I'm currently located today, and we'll get a talent pool for New Jersey State. For all of our software engineers. And I'm going to click on Generate Insights. And of course, you could go through this and add other filter criteria to define this a little bit better, maybe create a smaller candidate pool. But based on the information that we're finding, there's close to 60,000 professionals in New Jersey that have a title of software engineer or a similar title. You can see that we have other similar titles as well. As we scroll through this market report, you'll understand the top skill sets that these people generally will have, what companies they're currently working at, or maybe the top companies that they're working at, past companies, industries that they're in, location, average market values. This is currently being shown in USD since I'm in New Jersey, in the United States. But as I scroll down, you could even look at things like diversity pools, years of experience, years in company. There's a lot here. Now, one of the cool things about this, and I had mentioned it before, that you could take kind of different approaches to how you want to start sourcing for candidates. Some of my customers start in the Insights report. So if for some reason you had an initiative to hire software engineers in New Jersey and they had to be women, you could click on the women bar here, and it's going to show you those specific professionals right on the screen. We're going to be able to show you those profiles as well. We'll let that download, and we can see the information. And you can dive into each of these as well. You can see those blue hyperlinks right on the screen. You could add them to existing projects or create a new project depending on what your needs are. So there's a lot of helpful tools in this capacity. Now, if I come back over to Insights, a couple other things I wanted to show you that I think folks really love to see. For instance, this metric here of how many professionals have changed jobs within either the last 12 months or maybe it's the last 6 months. So we can see that it's a pretty low percentage. I'm sure if we looked at this report from the RN perspective, it may even be less. But ultimately, you can use this report for yourself. You could also use it when communicating internally, maybe with a hiring manager, so everybody's on the same sheet of music and understands the expectations for the types of candidates that would end up becoming into your interview process. You can also export all of this information, whether it's PDF or Excel. If I clicked on PDF, you'll have the ability to select what kind of information you want to include in this report and what kind of information you want to exclude. And we can also white label this. So if you want to get your logo on there, we can. I'm not going to actually download it because it would just take a couple seconds here. But it's basically going to look very similar to what you see on the screen here, but just in a PDF format that's shareable. Okay. So that's really the Insights report. There's obviously a lot of other cool things that we can do. We can save these searches. We can look at past history as well to jump back into it. But I just want to take a quick second here since we're running out of time and just take a quick peek at the reporting module. So I explained earlier before we kind of got into this demonstration that we're going to be able to look at all the analytics within the solution. And it looks like my internet's just taking a little bit of time to catch up here. But the idea behind the reports is that you're going to be able to look at information over any period of time, any kind of date range. You'll notice on the top that right now we're looking at it for the last 7 days. If you wanted to do comparable periods, you could do that as well. Perhaps you have a really large organization. There's different business units that are sourcing for different projects. Maybe it's field roles and sales roles, and then there's another one that's for tech and IT. You'll be able to actually look at individual group performance if you wanted to here. You could also look at specific user performance. Well, so a lot of different ways to slice and dice this information. You could easily export this as a report. You can export individual reports as well, but this can show you things like team performance, project performance, pipeline performance, open projects. A lot of great information here, and you can even look at, for instance, user details and break this down. So with that said, I hope everybody enjoyed the demonstration today. Of course, we can spend some more one-on-one time and I can dive into the product in more detail. There is certainly a lot more to show, but I wanted to keep it more at the 30,000 foot view so everybody kind of got a better understanding of how the product works and what the workflows look like. So I'll turn it over to my team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I always plug you for demos and I always appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. Happy to help.
Well, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to introduce now Amy and her team, and they are going to go through, excuse me, so sorry. They're going to go through a customer training right now. So Amy, go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Reese. And thank you again, everyone, for joining today. We're all super excited to be here. And I wanted to just give a quick intro to sort of this last portion of today's Hiretuality. So for the customer training portion, my team, Sam, Simran, and Brian, they will be kind of going through a little bit more of a detailed overview of some of the specific topics that Dan covered just now in the demo. So sharing some best practices, some of their favorite features and functions, and some best practices and tips and tricks around how to use them. So we'll cover a brief highlight on AI sourcing and search best practices, email outreach best practices, as well as a bit about our insights and reporting functionality. So I will hand it over to Sam. I believe he is our first one here on the list, and then we'll let my team take it away from here and go through some training.
Appreciate it, Amy. Thanks so much. Great job, Dan. Excited to meet you all and kind of walk you through some of the AI sourcing functionality and dive a little bit deeper into some things that we've seen to be really successful for a handful of our current clients now. So pretty sure you can all see my screen now, but what I'm going to dive into is really the top of the funnel, and I think what we're all most passionate about here on this call is sourcing. So what we're going to do here is click this source candidates button in the top left corner. One thing you might have noticed over the last month or so was this little feature right here with a little toggle where we can flip on a new version of sourcing. So some of you might have been familiar with our older version here with the same pop-out window with all the same filters, our sample candidates, persona, and insights at the top, as well as some of our other kind of quick triggers with starting with resume, job description, or start with Boolean string. But we did make some slight improvements to our sourcing feature now and kind of honed everything in. So I'm going to flip this switch on for you all to see some of the improvements we've made, and I'll also point you in the direction of where some of those things have moved to, so you can still use some of the old faithful kind of methods you've probably used in the past. So when we flip this switch on, a couple buttons have moved around. So one is starting with this resume or job description right here. I know some of us love getting into the nitty gritty of the filters, right? Layering in every single mandatory skill and all of our locations and job titles. But let's not forget sometimes that the best thing we can do is just jump right into a search in regards to uploading one of our job descriptions. So you can do it right here from a parsing, from a PDF file, or even from a Word document. So I'm just going to copy and paste in a senior product manager position right here. I'm going to title it real quick. And then what we're going to do now is hit this parse now, and we're actually going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you right out of the gates in regards to pulling a lot of that information from that job description directly into all of these filters that you see here. So we immediately start to pull product manager, senior product manager. Of course, you might want to go through this with a fine tooth comb at sometimes, because you can see here these mandatory skills might not be exactly what we're looking for, in the sense maybe use cases isn't just like a mandatory skill, right? That kind of comes along with it, or product manager, we're keeping, pulling that through our job titles. So just be cognizant of what's happening here. But as you see, as soon as we parse in this job description, we get returned the 270,000 candidates here on the right side of the screen. And we can do the same thing that we've done in the past, right? Start to work through these candidates. But more importantly, what I really want to focus on is now continuing to work through some of these filters with ways to expedite our sourcing process, right? And I think one of the things that we've had most success with in regards to moving through sourcing a little bit quicker so we can get to that engagements, piece is built through lists. So as you can see here, I've created a couple lists. I know one thing a lot of my clients love, especially when they're hiring for technically focused roles, is to prioritize time zones, right? Making sure that we're all working in the same time zone. So what I did here was actually correlated all of the states. I think I got most of them correct, but correlated them to their proper time zone. So I can click on my EST time zones here, and that will pull in all the states that fall into that time zone for us to then make sure we're only sourcing people from that area. As well as I made one right here, like top 10 East Coast cities. So I included maybe things like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and worked my way up and down the coast for us to then be able to create that kind of quick trigger to jump in there with these lists. And what's great about this is we can do that in more than one place. So another place that I think is really helpful and powerful for a lot of people is in regards to the companies feature, right? So for instance, right here, if you have a group of companies that you're targeting, or you know have a similar tech stack to maybe what you're working in currently, what's great about this is we can highlight a couple of these filters right here. Like this is New York City's top 25 tech startups. And I've just labeled it as Q4 as its relative time. I think I got this from maybe like Built in NYC. So then you can even highlight some of these specific companies for us to then go out and try and identify candidates coming from, what you might find is an attractive company. And what's even, more powerful is we could do the same in regards to excluding companies, right? If you do have any non-competes or you're working with the other specific clients and you want to make sure you're not sourcing from those realms, we want to make sure you can build those lists to jump right into your sourcing ways. And then our last is going to be in regards to education. One thing that I think's been really beneficial for some people is trying to identify maybe those top 25 comp sci universities, or if you're more into local hiring and you're in, let's say, the DC area and you want to prioritize this subset of junior-like talent that's coming with that comp sci degree, we can create the same lists here as we can with even excluding companies, excluding specific schools. I know a lot of tech hiring managers always are maybe a little cognizant of people coming from boot camps or Flatiron schools or any of those kind of more short-term studies where they might not have that 4-year fundamental understanding. So be sure to use some of these lists when you want to expedite your sourcing process. It's definitely helpful when it comes to getting through your pool a little quicker. So for just this instance, the last thing I wanted to touch on in regards to this was saved searches. One thing I'm definitely been talking to a lot of my accounts with is in regards to saved searches. So we're going to save this specific project. Once we layered in more mandatory skills, right, and job titles, and we felt comfortable with our candidate pool, we're going to do the same thing similar to what Dan was doing prior, right? We're going to save this as just our senior product manager. And we'll call it, rec number 171, just to make sure we know what role we're talking about. We're going to hit save here. And one thing that I think is super powerful is the ability to layer multiple saved searches into one project. So as soon as you hit that save project, we take all the same filters that you see here that we were able to layer in, right? And we immediately save that search for you here at the top of the screen. But what we also want to do is get you guys to have the understanding to build multiple saved searches to highlight other specific functionality. So as you can see, we saved this search and we also turned on this AI recommendation tool. And what this allows us to do is continue to source around the parameters that we laid out previously while you're working on things further down the funnel. And I know everybody loves that, right? If we can get people into second and third interviews, into technical screens, offers, all that fun stuff, we can take a lot of the heavy lifting off your shoulders in regards to continuing to source for these. So right here, when we have this tag switched here, we'll always notify you right here when we are able to find other candidates that fall into these parameters. You'll get a notification that looks just like this: Hiretool recommended candidates based on your AI recommendation search, and you can see those recommendations right from here. But a great way to look at it is, let's go back to our search here. And now let's say, one thing that maybe the company's really trying to improve coming into Q4 and early into next year is right in regards to diversity and inclusion. So now we can build a second saved search around the exact same parameters we were using previously from a technical landscape and job title. But now we can go in and save this as a new search. Wait for it to load. Save this as a new search, save current search. We'll title this one product manager. No, we don't want to overwrite. We'll do this one as senior product manager, and then we'll say plus DNI, right? And we'll save this, making sure we have the same AI sourcing tab filled on. And now you're able to see that we have multiple saved searches under this one project for us to continually source for you across all these disciplines. So if that's maybe finding someone with a master's degree in comp sci or highlighting those top 25 schools, you can continue to have multiple saved searches under this one project so we can do all that sourcing for you. So those were some of the major topics I wanted to cover. Dive a little bit deeper into the AI sourcing features. I know a lot of my current clients have been having a lot of success with building out 3 to 5 really saved searches under each project to kind of help with their overall top of the funnel kind of metrics. So back to you, Amy, if we want to move a little further into the process here.
Yeah, so we'll pass it along to Simran next, and she will be covering some of the email outreach best practices. So I'll let you take it away from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also thanks, Sam. That was awesome. I feel like I learned some stuff as well there. Perfect. So like mentioned, my name is Simran, and I will be covering outreach, including some new engagement features we do have, as well as some best practices to boost your open rate and reply rate as well. So the 2 new features I will be highlighting are a new poll function and calendar integration. And then after that, I'll move into some of those best practices following that. So I'm going to load up my screen just like Sam did. So just give me a moment here to pull that up. I'll give it a second to load up on everyone else's screen as well. So currently I do have a sequence email up on my screen. As a reminder, just kind of reiterating what Dan had mentioned earlier, we do recommend the use of sequences over the single emails because there is a higher open rate and reply rate associated with that when a candidate does receive multiple follow-ups over time. So as a high-level best practice, we do recommend sending between 3 to 4 emails in your sequence. Awesome. So to highlight that new poll function that we've just recently added, this is something where you can write out your full message as I just did over here, and then really quickly from your toolbar, select poll, adding in that poll function immediately. So this is awesome because it's really easily accessible to you. Again, it's just there on your toolbar. And then once you do select it, it'll add in these 3 default quick replies for the candidate to click. So we have interested, not interested, and contact later as you're seeing right there. So the candidates are going to be able to see this in their message and then again, really quickly react to it. So they can quickly click on any of these different options that relate to them or they feel is right in that time. So what we're going to do at Hiretual is actually capture that data and response for you and give it to you and your team to look at and analyze afterwards as well. You'll be able to see the responses in your inbox, but you'll also be able to filter by these 3 quick reply options as well. So I'd love to show you what it actually looks like. So first of all, I'm going to toggle over to my email. So this is what it would look like to the candidate if they received the email with the poll. So here you can see I sent an email to myself. I included the poll at the very bottom. And from here, all I have to do is quickly hit interested, contact later, etc. From there, I also want to highlight what it would look like to you as the sender of the email. So I'm in Hiretual currently in the messages area in my inbox. As you can see, we're going to be adding these little tags to each email if someone responded with a poll response. So for example, Sam said interested, Lynn said interested, Perry said contact later. And we know that a lot of you are sending out bulk emails, so lots of emails at once. If that's the case, you can also filter in your inbox over here. So I can say, just show me people that said interested, making it easier for me to prioritize who I reach back out to first. Lastly, we are going to be syncing up, of course, with your regular inbox. So over here in the Hiretual area, you can see that I do have the 3 different tags siphoned out currently. So we're going to have contact later, interested, and then not interested as well. Again, for you to actually go into here and reach back out. Awesome. So that's the poll function that we do have, again, accessible to you from the single email as well as sequence email in your toolbar over here. Perfect. So moving on to the meeting integration or calendar integration we have, this is something we're very excited to bring to the table and for everyone to try. It's currently in beta, but the actual integration itself will allow you to integrate with your Gmail or Outlook calendars. So the calendar integration will not only capture your availability once you integrate, it'll also allow you to schedule time with hiring managers or anyone else on your team as well. So to use it, again, going into your toolbar over here within your sequence email or regular single email, you'll be able to select meeting. And from here, it will give you two options. So again, we're going to give you the ability to sync up with your calendar, but then also add in your team's availability as well. To start off with, I'm just going to go ahead and hover over your availability. And from here, we do give you these 4 different options for different time chunks. So everything from 15 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how long the interview or phone screen should be. So what you can do from here is click on it. It'll give you some opportunities to customize. So as I can see over here, I can customize really everything about this link that I've added in. I'll decide if it's an online meeting or online interview. Is it on site? Should it be a phone screen? So you can make those customizations off the bat. You'll also be able to add in your conferencing link over here as well. And as you do go down, it's going to give you some options around the dates and the times that you do have available. I do want to just reiterate that it is going to sync up with your calendar. So with that being said, it's not going to allow the candidates to book time if you already have it booked off, or if you're going to be out of office, etc. So this is how you customize it over here. And then you can really easily just insert the link in when you're ready to go. So again, you will be able to insert time in from someone else's calendar as well, most likely a hiring manager. So you'll be able to do that by just, again, clicking on meeting, and then from here, clicking insert your team's availability. So from here, you'll be able to search against anyone that does have that integration set up within your Hiretual account. So I'll use Sam as an example because he just presented. So I'll type in Sam's name, and from here, we find him. As you see, it's going to load up his calendar. So I can see all the blue areas are already blocked off. He already has meetings set up. Everything that's open, I will be able to select as options for this 30-minute meeting for this candidate. So I'll be able to select as many time slots as I wish to add and give to that candidate to book from. So you'll be able to, again, customize. You can decide the meeting name. You can add in the time zone, which is really helpful, I know, for cross collaboration, and also add in some of those details as well. Once you're done, you can preview it just to see what the end candidate would see. And from here, you'll be able to take a look at the exact screen that they would be able to take a look at and book time with. So as we can see over here, it has the time zone. They'll be able to select from the options I provided and then hit insert time. So really, this is awesome because overall, it does alleviate that back and forth that you typically would have with the candidate to decide on times and dates and phone interviews and whatnot as well. So it does kind of alleviate that, making it more efficient overall just to book those times in. And of course, for the end candidate, it does give them some efficiency as well, being able to book time in with you, within a couple of clicks. So it's really going to be a faster thing overall. Again, to access this, you will have to set up that integration, and feel free to reach out to us if you want some help to do so. Once we do have it set up, you'll be able to see the meeting area here in your toolbar and then insert that availability. Awesome. So moving on to a couple of best practices. I know that Dan mentioned this, but I wanted to reiterate that we do have the ability to send on behalf of someone else on your team, or you might be referring to this as SOBO as well. We do encourage the use of SOBO because it does boost that response rate. It does boost that open rate a lot of times as well. To initiate SOBO, all you have to do is in your from line, click on your email, your name, and then click plus send as hiring manager. So from here, you'll be able to select someone from your Hiretual account, and you'll be able to send on behalf of them. So for example, if I wanted to send on behalf of Amy, I could do so over here and then request the ability to do so. We do have some more options as you're seeing. So, am I just sending the email? Or am I going to be sending the emails and seeing the replies on behalf of Amy as well? So different options for you to take a look at based on the relationship and based on the role that you're sourcing for currently. So we do see this a lot of times when we are working with clients that are looking to source for more senior roles or executive roles, C-suite roles, and things like that. So I'd encourage using it if you do have some of those higher level roles that you are sourcing for. So that's SOBO. Again, please feel free to reach out to your CSM or anyone else if you want some help setting that up. The next thing I'd love to touch on, and again, I know Dan briefly touched on this as well, but we do encourage sending, very specifically on certain times and days as well of the week, because there is a higher open and reply rate associated with those certain days and times. So first of all, we do encourage sending emails within your sequence and your single emails as well, if you want to choose to use those, between Sunday to Wednesday. Between Sunday to Wednesday, we do see the highest open and reply rates, generally speaking. It does drop slightly for Thursday to Saturday, so we do encourage focusing on that first half of the week. Like Dan mentioned, it's better to send towards the end of the day, just because people tend to be looking at their personal emails more so then. So typically we'll say after 3 p.m. in that local candidate's time zone. And then again on the weekends, like Dan mentioned, a little bit later, again in the evening as well, when people are more so on their phones. Awesome. So those are some of the best practices and those new features I wanted to highlight for everyone. Again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or want some help setting anything up. But we definitely hope you test out the new features for sure. They're going to bring you a lot of efficiency for sure. Awesome. I'll stop my share and pass it back to Amy.
All right. Thanks, Simran. That was awesome. Thanks for sharing those best practices. Last but not least, we have Brian, who is going to be showcasing quite a few topics, but highlighting kind of our market insights, best practices, tips and tricks, reporting, and if we have time, a little bit of the Chrome extension as well. So Brian, I'll let you take it away from here.
Great. Thanks, Amy. And thanks everyone who's presented so far. Awesome job, Dan. Wonderful demo of the product, very thorough. Like Amy said, I'm gonna take a few minutes and take a deeper dive into a few of the features that Dan covered, starting with market insights. And let me share my screen for you real quick, so you have something to look at. Now, the market insights you'll be able to locate in the top navigation under the Insights tab. And market insights are really here to give you a more detailed look at the information and the data behind a specific market that you're working on sourcing for. And the information is going to give you a better understanding of the availability of talent so that you can prepare yourself when going into that search. Now, our customers use market insights for a number of different reasons. I'd say the top two reasons are for the recruiters and the sourcers to prepare themselves. Maybe they're researching a job description that they're not familiar with, or they're sourcing for a position it's their first time, and they'd like to get a better understanding and arm themselves with addressable market data for that search. So I'd say the first way is really for the recruiters or sources themselves to prepare themselves. The second is to share with people who might be involved in that particular position and the recruiting process for it, like a hiring manager. We see a lot of our customers share the market insights with their hiring managers during intake meetings as a way to set the right expectations when going into that search. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can share this information. So I'm going to build out a quick, and the market insights, it's similar to the layout of AI sourcing, right? So on the left-hand side, as you saw earlier, is the search criteria. I like to leave mine, fairly broad. So I'm just going to put in a quick title here. We're going to look for a data scientist, and we're going to look in. I'm going to go down to the location, and we're going to look in San Jose, California. I like to leave mine fairly broad. I mean, obviously, you can build this search out as much as you'd like. If you need to have certain skills in there, you can. But I like to just put in the location and the job title, and then hit generate insights so that I can see what the available talent looks like, right? So Hiretual is going to show me how many professionals that fit this search criteria are going to be in that area. We can also see how many have changed jobs within the last 12 months or 6 months, giving you an idea of how easy it might be to attract this talent, right? So I can toggle between 12 and 6 months if I'd like. And as I scroll down, we're going to have a lot of helpful information here, right? We're going to be able to see the top titles that are appearing in these profiles. What are the overlapping skills, that we're seeing here in the profiles? I think most importantly, what companies are these people working at? This is good, intel for you, if you want to target specific companies, or if you see your competitors here, which competitors should we be poaching from? And one thing that we've done, as I scroll down and show you just a little bit more, you can see average market value. What does diversity look like in this given market, right? One thing that we've done recently is, rather than just show you data, this page is completely interactive now. So these bars are all clickable, meaning, maybe I want to take a look at the candidates who are over at PayPal. I can click that bar, and it's going to show me the profiles of those candidates, right? What you can do from here is completely up to you. You can look at these profiles individually. You can add them individually to projects, or you can just bulk select them up to 200 at a time and add them to a specific project that you're working on, right? So this is one of the newer features, just showing you faces rather than just numbers. So, from here, you can take action in a couple of different ways. As I mentioned, probably the top two ways that our customers use this, use Market Insights, is to, as a recruiter or sourcer, start here, gather the knowledge, gather the data, and then start sourcing. And you can click this Start AI Sourcing, and this will take all of the information that you put into your search criteria for that report, and it'll populate it into that first screen that you saw with Sam and earlier in the demo with Dan that you can now see here. It's all populated over, and now I can start building out my search even further, looking at profiles and add them to a project. The second way is to share this information, and we have a very easy way for you to download this information right here in export. I can export it into a PDF or the raw data into a spreadsheet. I prefer the PDF. You can completely customize what this report is going to look like. One of our newest updates now allows you to remove the top of the insights report, the details that are highlighting basically the index. And then as I go down a little bit further, I can remove fields and I can organize these the way that I want them to appear on the report. Maybe diversity is important for me. I'm going to move it right up to the top because I know my hiring manager wants to see a breakdown of the diversity. Once I export this information, it downloads into a very clean looking PDF that you can easily share with anybody who needs to see it. And this is what it's going to look like. Cool. So that was my rundown of the Market Insights. Utilize it. Great information here. I'm going to hop over into reports. Reports are essentially, a way for you to view, as a recruiter or sourcer, your own performance, your own data in the system. If you need to provide reports to anybody like a manager on your activity or what you've been doing, we make all of these reports easily exportable. For any admins on the call, this is a good way for you to see the performance and the activity of your team. There's a number of different reports here that you're going to have access to. You can see the project performance is a breakdown of how your projects are doing. I think probably the most popular report is this pipeline performance, just giving you a breakdown of your recruiting or your sourcing funnel from top to bottom. But all of these reports you can break down by project. So if you need to look at your activity or your data on a specific project, you're going to be able to choose which project you want to see. Towards the bottom, one of the reports that gets utilized a lot and exported a lot is the diversity analytics. This is going to give you a breakdown of all of your diversity sourcing from top to bottom. So the number of diverse candidates you sourced, viewed, qualified, engaged with, and that you eventually sent over to your ATS. So you can see that each one of these reports you can export individually. Up at the top, one of our most recent updates gives you the ability to easily select date ranges that you'd like to see. So if I wanted to look at reports for the last month and then compare it to a previous period, I can do that. So I want to see my month over month activity. I can apply that. And now for all of the reports, you're going to see the month over month data, and you're going to be able to see if you're trending up or down, right? So for my pipeline performance, I can see that I sourced 14% more candidates month over month, but it's going down in the number of candidates I've reviewed and qualified. So you can easily see how you're doing to a previous compared to a previous time period. Also, one of the new features that we released that I think is really cool is the ability to schedule reports to be exported, right? So I can go over here to export reports, and I can actually schedule these reports to be exported and sent to me via email. So if I want to look at a report in PDF, which is new, I don't need to do it in raw data anymore. I can look at it in a nice clean PDF. I can select the reports that I want to export. I can send it to certain people, including myself. And then you can decide, when do you want to receive this report? Schedule that report, and then you'll start receiving that report in your inbox on the schedule that you've set up. So lots of easy ways to get out the data from Hiretual. I'm going to hop over into, and Dan already did a pretty good job at explaining the ATS integration. So, we integrate with a number of different ATSs, giving you the ability to easily push candidates into your ATS right from Hiretual. If you're not integrated, I'd recommend going up into this app section and taking a look at the different ATSs that we already integrate with. If you see your ATS there, it's as easy as clicking into the details and connecting it, and we'll give you a brief tutorial on how to do it. If you don't see your ATS there, contact your customer success manager or any member of our sales team, and we'll discuss a possible integration in the future. I know I have a couple more minutes here, so I did want to hop over into another tab here and talk about our Chrome extension. So Hiretual has a Chrome extension that essentially gives you the ability to utilize all of Hiretual's functionality when you are sourcing on different platforms. I'm going to use LinkedIn here because I think LinkedIn's a fairly common place where recruiters and sourcers are sourcing. If you do not have our Chrome extension, all you have to do is Google Hiretual Chrome extension and get it added into your browser. Once you have it, you can see it'll be located right up here in the top of your browser. Anytime you're sourcing on one of those platforms that you can utilize the Chrome extension on, you'll be able to get a drop down here and see some additional information. So, for example, I was doing a quick search on LinkedIn and I found myself right here. So once you find a candidate you're interested in, come up top, click on the Hiretual Chrome extension. It's going to give you a drop down, and you're going to have a lot of great information here. You're going to have the candidate's contact information. If you scroll down, we're going to give you some similar candidates based on the location, job title, and skills match that you can quickly add to one of your projects if you'd like. We're going to give you some insights on this candidate. You can even add notes and tags, but most importantly, what you can easily do is either add this candidate to a project that you already have open in Hiretual by clicking add to a project. That easy. Or you can send them an email right from here. You don't need to go in Hiretual to send them an email. So if I want to send Brian an email, I would just click send email, and I'm going to have all of the same email functionality that I have in Hiretual right here in the Chrome extension. So I could send Brian, a single email. I could send him a sequence. I can just go down to sequence, choose my sequence, and then send it out. So I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, if you don't have the Chrome extension, download it right now. It's going to be valuable for you, especially when you're not sourcing within Hiretual. And that's all I got. I'm going to hand it back over to Amy.
Awesome. Thanks, team, for going through everything. Thanks, everyone, for diving into the product and sharing some best practices. I think we are just about ready to wrap up for today. So, Reese, if you have any kind of closing statements for us all.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you to everybody that joined today, as well as everybody on the Hiretual team, Amy and her team, Shannon, who came in clutched and helping me MC somebody in. We have Hiretuality again next Wednesday, same time. Make sure to join because we are giving away prizes every single time you join a Hiretuality event. So just stay around for it. If you guys need anything, please let us know. We will be sending out the recording probably next week. But yeah, if you need anything, let us know. We appreciate you all being here, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. See you later.